Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of With Conviction, a story of hope, horror, and history. My name is Rain, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm your GM for this adventure. With me are my victorious heroes for this campaign. Why don't you all introduce yourselves?
Hi there, I'm Alice. I play Desdemona Hartwood. Both of us use she and they pronouns, and Desdemona is a Roseheart guardian. She's got a sort of gothy, punky aesthetic with a heart of pink and a lot of tears in her eyes right now.
I'm Skylin. My pronouns are they and them, and I play Kris Whitlock, whose pronouns are she or any. Kris is our sportsy magical not a girl, who is our firebrand artillery, who's feeling a little less hurt and a lot more thankful.
And I am Rob. My pronouns are he, him, and I play Eliza, whose pronouns are she, her. Eliza is our fiery, stalwart soul magical girl, and she is thinking it's time for pancakes.
Which is very reasonable, considering that you had just went back into the gray and spent some time developing a very interesting maneuver. But once you felt you were ready, your plans to go on the offensive were interrupted when the enemy apparently decided to do the same thing. You were able to successfully fend them off through their attempts to get their hands on the sword and managed not to set off any powder explosions in the process, but got quite seriously hurt. You received some help from Tilly, but in the process, managed to slay one of the enemies who had stolen Chris's identity. And you remembered all of the times that you had shared pancakes together. So, what are you doing now?
Kris is handing the sword back to Eliza.
Eliza is considering ways to keep it more secure in the future, but for the moment, I think we're heading back to the real world.
I was going to say, and Desdemona is suggesting pancakes.
Yeah, definitely. We are getting out of Dodge, I think.
I think there's like a moment when all three of them, after the hug pile, are just looking at each other like, pancakes?
Pancakes.
Fucking pancakes.
All right, let's go. And Eliza cuts open the portal to the real world and steps through, gives Faith and Hazel a call, asks them to meet at the diner.
Hazel's not there. Hazel doesn't respond, but Faith does, and reminds you she doesn't have a car.
No response from Hazel?
Wait a sec, we left Hazel and. No, we left Faith at Eliza's place with Jesse.
Yep.
And that would have been a few hours ago now. Jesse may have gone home separately. Wait, where did we leave Faith? Or where did we leave Hazel?
The last you checked with Hazel, she had you had asked her to investigate the light.
Oh, and she went to do that immediately. Great. Eliza just texts Hazel a pancake emoji.
There's no response.
Oh, that's worrying. But for the moment, we're going to go pick Faith up and pancakes, I guess.
Okay.
Do y'all want me to go flying around, seeing if I can pick up Hazel somewhere?
I know we're not being quite so secretive about the powers, but I don't think we should be flying around.
I mean, I think I can take a missile, is all I'm saying.
But should you?
Where are you all having this conversation?
I think this must be in Eliza's car.
On the way? Okay.
Yeah.
I think Kris just calls Hazel directly.
Hey, what's up?
Do you remember pancakes?
Oh, shit. Yeah. Yeah.
Will you come have some with us?
Uh,
please.
Roll charm.
Okay. That is an 8 on the dice plus 1 is 9.
Sure. I'll be there.
Hey, Hazel.
Yeah.
I love you.
Love you too.
Kris smiles and hangs up.
Hazel is late getting there. She's the last one to arrive.
Kris immediately makes space for Hazel.
Hazel kind of sits down on the edge of the bench.
So, did you find anything?
Not yet. I'm still looking.
Well, it's only been a few hours. You can't have a breakthrough right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Kris just leans her shoulder into Hazel's.
Hazel kind of leans back very lightly. Y'all doing okay?
Well,
It was a little rough.
physically, Eliza and I are fine. Kris,
Eh,
maybe not so much.
Hazel's look darkens and she looks towards Kris.
Kris looks at Hazel and says, "Those things were really after me. Tilly was really helpful."
Oh, right. Yeah. Good.
Kris looks at Eliza and Desdemona. She's making it plain on her face. She is expecting you two to say something.
Des goes, so, we got a few, maybe like a memory back. Obviously, we remember now that Kris is a team member.
mhm.
What we're sorry, Hazel. I'm sorry. I didn't mean
What?
to make you. You're part of the team too. I know you don't get the flashy powers, but you're an adult. You're an individual. You get to choose if you want to put yourself in danger. Um, it wasn't our place to exclude you.
Hazel stares at you with a look of consternation, as if she's not really understanding what you're saying.
It wasn't right for us to tell you that you can't be part of this, and you obviously really want to, so. Yeah.
Her brow furrows. She bites her lip. She's not looking directly at either of you. She's looking somewhere in between.
I would be happier if we could come up with something that would keep you safe and make you a little more powerful. But she turns her head to look at Hazel directly. You deserve a chance to make a difference.
I think Hazel has made a difference. It's not like
Mhm.
we did like half the saving, you know? She's proven to us multiple times over that she is a part of the team.
She blinks a few times.
And Faith, I get the sense you still want to just stay behind and not get right in the middle of things.
I'm good. I'm perfectly happy right where I am.
I thought so. She just chuckles and gently bumps her shoulder into Faith.
Faith laughs and bumps you back.
Yeah. What we're saying, Hazel, is you've seen how these fights go for us. You have enough information now. Do you want to be part of them?
What? What kind of? She wipes at an eye. What did you have in mind?
I mean, we can't give you superpowers, but believe me, we would have if we could have. But also, again, as we've talked about before, not trans. So, you know, you kind of. Anyways, the key I think is that you don't have a particularly effective way to either defend yourself or really like engage, unless was it you who brought the gun? Was it Hazel who brought the gun that one time?
That was Faith.
That's what I thought.
That was my dad's gun.
Right. Still really cool.
Faith just kind of sinks into the bench.
Don't be embarrassed, Faith. Super cool.
Uh,
Point being, you need
Something.
something.
And, well, I mean, you're getting better at the fencing.
yeah, that I am enjoying that.
Yeah.
Chris's foot pokes Eliza. Earth and fire is what it takes to make swords, right?
Eliza's head whips up. I mean, I've been watching a lot of Forged in Fire lately.
Are you all suggesting we make a sword? Is that legal? Is that cool?
Yes, and extremely yes.
Yeah, I guess I didn't need to ask the second one. Definitely cool.
Yeah. Eliza's kind of looking up into the air for a moment as she trails off.
This is not something Kris would know, but I think it would be really, really cool if we could come up with a way for us to make a sword together and have it have all those elements in there. It'd be really cool to have glass inlays.
Yeah, I was gonna say something on like the hilt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are we doing this?
So, this sounds to me like a pet project.
Yep.
Eliza's fire to forge it, Chris's earth to birth the blade, and Dez's glass to protect the one who shares that name. That sounds like an amazing pet project.
So, who is leading this?
I think Des can help, but I don't think she should be leading it. Rain, how many blacksmiths would you say there are in Winchester?
And does know them.
Professional or hobby?
Yeah.
If you want the professional ones, you'll have to head down to Williamsburg.
That's true. That's true.
I'm sure that you could find someone if you look. Why?
Can I roll to see if I could either know someone already or could find someone
To make
to
it
help
for
us.
you.
No. It's important that we're the ones making it. But I want help because, uh, I mean, Rain, you've had experience doing like a little light forging. That's not really something that you just go, yeah, sure, I'll do that.
Uh-huh.
It takes some work getting some information from
And also
an
just
expert.
having the equipment.
Yes, yeah, that was
Would
the other
be
thing I was going
cool.
to say.
So I'll offer you this. Des can make a I know a guy check to give you a +1 to the pet project for having access to someone. Otherwise, you're going to have to DIY your own forge and anvil.
Right, which sounds crazy.
Less crazy than you'd think.
Kris, okay, this is not in character. This is explicitly like Kris is like hearing this idea and going, "Yeah, I can figure out how to make those things out of earth. It'll be fine."
Oh no.
Her gay audacity has gone to 12.
Oh, God. So, Des, go ahead and make your roll.
Okay. All right. With the +2, that is an 8.
Yay.
Well, it's a good thing you had
Okay.
that. Yes. Okay. So whoever makes this roll will have the +1 for the proper equipment and some advice.
I have a thing I think Eliza could roll to also contribute another +1.
Well, if you do that, that means Kris is the one doing the forging.
Which makes sense to me. She's the muscular one.
You know, that's fair.
He's also the one who was like, "Hey, we need to do this thing."
Mhm.
So
Also
I
true.
think
All right.
I think it makes sense.
So I think Eliza's thing is tracking down the proper materials.
All right.
And what she's going to do, you need two things to make good quality steel. You need iron ore, but it's best to work straight from the ore rather than just buying mild steel online or whatever. And you also need coal to up the carbon content.
You are
Fortunately,
you
we're
are
in.
just straight up making this from the ore. Oh
Uh huh.
my God.
And fortunately, we're in Virginia. So Eliza, I think, is going to roll a research roll to track down because there are both iron and coal mines in the area. She's going to track down a mine where we can properly source that ore.
Huh?
Okay,
Oh,
that's doing it the hard way, but sure.
Well,
It
she
is in
rolled
fact
an
doing it
8.
the hard way.
And here's my logic for this, Rain. I've read a lot of doorstopper fantasy novels. I know that if we want a proper magic skip and narratively significant sword, we have to start from the basics.
Is this Eliza's logic as well?
Yes.
Or you gotta find it in like an enchanted forest or
And
something.
Virginia's pretty short on enchanted forests.
Hmm.
And I think that so I rolled an 8 + 1 is 9 for the research check. So is that good enough to find a proper source for it?
I think that the complications for both of these are it's going to take longer than you'd like,
Okay. That makes sense.
which
This
is
isn't
fine
something you
because
do
Kris
overnight.
needs some time to practice making knives.
I was gonna say.
Yeah. Basically, Eliza and Kris are in an old mine, and I think perhaps that we like broke a lock to get in here, even though I don't get to roll break and enter. But we're down in the actual mine itself, and I think we're just letting Kris's sense for Earth guide us to the proper ore and maybe coal. But just that scene of them in the mine is a visual that I really like.
Nice. So, Kris, you are rolling to work on your pet project with a +2.
Okay. Alright. That is a 9 on the dice, +2 is 11.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. You are spending quite a bit of time on this. Anytime you're not in class, anytime that you're not practicing, you are working on this sword. We see The days flick by one after another after another. The days get colder, but you're in that forge, which is quite warm. We see Eliza lighting the forge. We see you heating the billet, drawing it out by hand, strike after strike after strike. We see sparks flying. We see the billet get longer until it's finally into the shape of a blade. We see you hammering the bevels into it. We see you taking it to the grinding room and cleaning it up. And then we see you start to work on the fittings, the guard, the hilt, the pommel, and perhaps a sheath.
Each one of them with a small finial for a glass to go in.
So why don't you describe to me what this sword will look like when you finish it on your next day off?
One of these evenings, when Kris leaves the forge, sweaty, tired, but proud, she texts Hazel, "What's your favorite color?"
Sort of a blue aquamarine.
Kris sends a thumbs up. The design for the sword overall is simple, but it will be incredibly effective. It has a straight blade, sharpened on both ends, coming to a sturdy tip. The fuller down the middle takes out some of the weight of the piece. The S-shaped guard almost appears to be like a small finial. It reminds one of a musical staff or the F-holes in a violin. At each end, in the middle of the spiral, will be a small glass bead. The handle is shaped from Kris's favorite wood and backed with brass. And the pommel itself will be a brass ring into which will be set on either side a camera-like crystal lens. And Kris texts Hazel a picture of the design. And then also texts Hazel a picture of her flexing because she now has very, very strong forearms.
I think she just writes back, looking good.
Kris grins.
A sword or Kris?
Yeah.
So I'm going to say that it's going to take a while to get the blade up to the sharpness that you want. Each of the other pieces you've sort of put over the course of this time, you've sort of put together and assembled them. It still is going to take some time to get it to that sharpness that you want. I'll say that's what's going to hold us up from it being completely ready. Here's a question.
Mm.
While it's not being worked on, is it hanging in Eliza's room?
I mean, it would fit in there with all the other swords.
I think Kris would be okay with that.
Kris has a key to Eliza's place by now.
So, what else do people want to do?
I have a thing I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, part of what's going on in this interval is that Eliza has stepped up Hazel's fencing instruction. It's now pretty much an everyday thing.
Perfect.
And it's
Hazel
moved from
has switched to using a mock-up of the longsword that is being put together.
all right, yeah, and it's moved from being anything full on like proper fencing to being actual like fighting style training.
It took a bit to get used to that switch, but she's very enthusiastic about this.
But the action I actually wanted to do is Eliza talking to Kris while the sword is being made. I think this is just happening one evening when they're like getting it hammered out. It's still kind of looking like an ingot rather than an actual blade. It's fairly early in the process. Eliza's providing the fire that is heating it, and also she's just interested in the process and probably taking pictures and posting them places. At some point, she just says, "You know, Kris, I'm really glad we've got part of you back.
Yeah. Ting, 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 ting.
There's still something missing, though, isn't there?
Kris grimaces and continues hammering away.
Look, Eliza pulls out her phone. I've read our text history. I've read our entire text history. I don't usually make friends fast, Kris. I don't usually make friends at all.
Kris puts the hammer down.
You and I, we went from first meeting to texting every single day like that. I don't know, you're important.
Kris leaves the sword on the anvil for a moment and meets Eliza's eyes.
I don't like that whatever we had is missing. And I want to get the rest of you back.
I love you too.
Despite the warmth of the forge, you can still genuinely feel heat radiating from Eliza for a moment. Yeah. I love you, Kris. Okay. Ooh, that was painful to say. Ah,
You good, hot stuff?
I think so. And she just steps in and gives Kris a hug.
Kris fully embraces Eliza and squeezes as hard as she can with those increasingly dense forearms.
Ooh, you're so strong. Eliza makes no effort to escape. And GM, I'm going to roll build friendship.
All right.
Okay, and that's a 7.
Kris, are you rolling build friendship?
I think so. That is an 11 on the dice.
Indeed. So, where are you all at now?
Kris was still an acquaintance because of being bumped down from losing everything, but has now been pushed back to friend.
And considering that you have those memories back, you don't have everything back, but you certainly have quite a bit of memories of the time that you've spent together. So I think that it's fair to return things to as they were and then add this on top of that.
Right, then that means that Kris has been bumped up to confidant.
As has Eliza. I think Kris invites Jesse to the forge.
Well, this is quite a setup.
I owe Hazel quite the thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did she find what you were missing?
No. But she was there when I needed it.
Yeah. That's quite a thank you.
Kris grins. She's worth it. And I would like to posit that the act of forging is a risky one. As you're dealing with a lot of fire, a lot of heat. You're at risk for heat exhaustion, burns, etc.
As long as you're being careful, I don't think it's... You've had the practice, but I will still give it to you.
Okay. I would like to say that this is early on in this effort.
Okay, when you're still working on knives.
Probably. But the image of the future sword is definitely like on the wall.
So, how much stress and conviction are you clearing?
5 total.
And as you work through this, you spend a lot of time thinking as you work, what about this, and I think I know the answer, but what about this whole experience helps you grow as a person?
Kris, at the end of that night, hugs Jesse tightly. Thank you for telling me to trust them. Is what she's taking away from this. Is that sometimes you need a leap of faith to find your team again.
And sometimes that can be risky. So, Des or Eliza?
Faith just gets a kind of perplexing text from Eliza one day. This is probably probably before fencing practice with Hazel. Faith just gets a text that says, "Hi, I'm gonna go play music at the children's ward at the hospital. Do you want to come along?"
Well, I can't play, but sure.
Okay, yeah, I'll pick you up. And I think we don't need to focus on the direct playing of it, or playing the music there, but I think so. In the aftermath, Eliza has played a surprisingly broad selection of children's songs, and she's really good at with kids apparently because she's like she plays like Octopus's Garden and similarly kid-oriented songs that are meant for groups and such, very musically simple. And also, she brought a Lego sets that one of the older kids who's in the hospital jumps on. And she's just seems to be entirely at home here. And
Hey, take courage for that.
oh, okay. And what's Faith's reaction to seeing Eliza in this situation?
I think she is very comfortable with this. I think that she engages with it very enthusiastically. She's backing up whatever Eliza's doing. She's talking to the kids. She's I think she actually helps with the Legos.
Yes, good.
That sort of thing. This is one of the places you've seen her more at ease.
Okay. I think after they're done and they have like it's a Wednesday morning, there's basically just a scheduled hour where Eliza comes and does this at this point. And as they're leaving the hospital, Eliza's got her acoustic guitar in her case. They're just heading out. She's kind of bouncing on her heels, got a bit of a dumb smile on her face.
Faith is walking beside you. I didn't know you did this.
It started a couple weeks ago, back when Hazel was in the hospital. But I mean, I know how annoying it is for kids to be cooped up in the hospital all the time, so having someone visit like this helps a lot. And not all these kids have parents who can visit during the weekday.
Oh. Yeah, that makes sense. You knew someone who was. She gestures back toward the hospital.
Eliza looks up at Faith for a moment, gives a sigh. About 4 years ago, I ended up in the hospital.
Oh.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I was sick, and I had spent total was 3 months, but I was comatose and on a ventilator for one of those.
There's a pause for a moment. You get to the car and climb in. It's still quiet. And then she says, "Well, I'm glad you're here. I think these kids really appreciate it."
Me too.
Faith looks at you as you're driving back and I'm kind of curious.
Yeah?
From what you've told me about what's going on in that gray and what I've is there a reason that you don't like help?
What do you mean?
She shrugs and I don't know. Never mind.
Do you mean like help the people in the gray, or
I meant like for a long time you didn't want Hazel to help and you said you didn't want them to help and I mean it's starting to feel like a pattern. That's all. I didn't mean to pry.
no? No, Faith, you're always allowed to pry. But I like to do things on my own. And I know I'm not really. I'm like out here on my own at 19 with my own apartment, but I'm not really doing it on my own because it's still family money and everything. It's just. I needed a lot of help for a long time, and now I don't want to anymore. And Faith, you still don't want to be like fighting monsters yourself, right?
No, absolutely not. That's I've
Okay,
seen what
good.
happens to I've seen what happens to y'all. I don't understand why Hazel is so keen.
I think she's more like me. But I'm glad that you're staying out of it, Faith. I don't want you to get hurt too.
I won't. I mean, you're the one doing all the dangerous stuff. Really, I should be worried about you. And I am, but
Okay. Well, I'm glad you worry about me. I know I don't like much help, but it's nice to be important to someone.
Faith smiles. That's what friends are for.
Eliza smiles back, and I don't think she has anything else that needs saying, so yeah.
All right. Eliza, how much stress and conviction are you clearing?
I am clearing 3 conviction and 2 stress, which is just the
Just
amount I
enough.
needed. Yeah. And I'm gonna bank that experience.
As you're driving back, what's going through your head that you process that helps you grow as a person?
I think it's a little bit of that she does need to accept help occasionally because she did say that it's nice to have someone looking out for her and worrying about her. And also the visit with the kids. She's been doing this for a bit and it was for their sake, but it's starting to be for her sake too. It's something she really values.
I like that. So go ahead and write that down. And you said you were banking it. So,
Yes.
Des, what are you up to?
I'm not certain that there's anything I need to be doing. Um,
Okay. Well, you don't have to if you don't want to.
I know I don't have to. I wouldn't mind uh having a build friendship action with Hazel,
Ooh.
but
Okay.
other than that, I don't have much that
Well,
I.
what would you like to do?
That is a good question. Maybe Eliza's teaching Hazel how to fight someone with who's also using like a sword. But what if Des is sparring with her with her shield?
Ooh.
Okay.
And like flight.
Oh yeah, good
Ooh.
point.
Because there are a lot of enemies that you fight that are flying.
Mhm.
And a lot of enemies that aren't like super direct like Eliza is.
Mm.
This is
Yeah.
true.
She has one thing and that's all she does.
So why don't you describe to me what this scene of sparring looks like, and then go ahead and build friendship, probably with shield check.
About that.
Amazing.
Finally, things are going in the way of shield check. Okay, so I think it's like this back and forth scene of Des charging in while transformed with her shield and trying to get past Hazel's defenses while keeping her from doing any damage. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, this is great because Hazel can go like all out and she's never gonna hurt Des. So yeah, I think at this point Des is just really pushing Hazel as far as she can, dodging in and trying to get like little strikes in with the shield jab. And once Hazel's got a good handle on that, taking off and like dropping towards her shield out to see how Hazel handles that as well.
Excellent.
This
So
is great. I love this.
go ahead and roll build friendship with shield check.
Beautiful.
Incredible.
We love it.
Oh my god. That is a 3+1. That is a 4.
Oh no.
Mm. Can I give Alice my courage?
No, you cannot.
Aw.
Alice, you haven't failed a roll yet, right? With that build friendship?
I haven't failed with build friendship before. So I'm aware of the effects.
So would you go easy on her at first?
At first, yeah. But I think given a little bit of time, once I know that she can keep up a bit, I think Des is going to be like, she needs to be ready.
Yeah.
So I think she starts slowly taking the training wheels off, so to speak.
Okay, yeah. And she's able to keep up with you. But I think that what happens is she slips around your guard as you come in and cracks you real good across the head. And she just kind of freezes and just has this really guilty look on her face, and she doesn't say anything. And I think she doesn't say anything for the rest of the fight.
I also think this is good because Des takes this hit and feels it like warped by the light that she's wielding and barely feels it. Like she staggers and the momentum still got to go somewhere, but like Des herself is fine. So maybe that's why it's so affecting, is because like Des doesn't even bring it up as like a that was too far kind of thing.
Yeah, it looks like she's kicking herself. But as you are doing all this work, and as you are, I assume, preparing to go for another delve now that you've recovered and aren't quite so beat up, I think this is a good place for us to wrap up this episode. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. And thank you to my players. And I look forward to seeing you all next time. Have a good night. Thank you again for joining us on this adventure. With Conviction is a production of Silver Maiden Games. If you would like to play Conviction, check out the game at silvermaidengames.itch.io. Music for the intro and outro of this podcast is A Soul with Conviction by Doom Vega, who you can find on Bandcamp. Music within the episodes is by Rachel Rose Mitchell, who you can find on Bandcamp and Spotify. All rights to the music are retained by their original artist. Production and editing are done by myself and the With Conviction cast. Thank you all. This would not be what it is without you. You can find this podcast on Spotify and YouTube or silvermaidengames.wordpress.com. You can also find more about the game, podcast, and ways to contact us at silvermaidengames.wordpress.com.